So thank you very much, Melissa, for coming today.
Absolutely.
So we met last year, right? So
yes.
We had a first conversation and you asked me something. You said, what's the most important thing in a successful PIM project? And I told you, well, it's not just about the technology. It's also about the people and processes behind. Can you tell me more? Did we realize that? And actually, can you give a little bit about your experience around that?
Absolutely. So of all the partners that I've ever partnered with, Valtech, to me, focused on not just the technology, but the people that are utilizing the technology and the processes that they're taking to do it. And when I first met with you, the first words out of your mouth was, well, one important thing that you need to know about Valtech is that we don't just focus on the technology. And I didn't realize how much you meant that until I met your team. And then I met the Valtech team and I was like, that is exactly what he meant. They, from workshop one, they took us not just through what our expectations from a PIM was, but kind of what does that mean to our people? What does that mean to our processes, our governances, the things that really lay around the technology? And then if you tell us what happens around the technology, we'll give you a technology that enables it. And that's really been the focus, I feel like, from the team is not just giving us a technology that performs because it's a PIM, it's going to perform.
Okay.
But it also building everything around it that needs to support it to really make it work. And so it's been a game changer.
Can you give a few examples on how Inriver helps you also perform kind of what you had to do and deliver? Like a few features that you felt like were like a differentiator on your day-to-day, maybe before you used to do things manually, and now thanks to the solution, you're able to do some kind of automation or something like that?
Absolutely. So at Carhartt, though we currently had a PIM, everything was done in spreadsheets and emails and spreadsheets and a lot of spreadsheets. And so when we decided that was no longer the culture, we knew that it was going to take a lot to change that culture. And so some of the things that were done is we have the change management team that came in. And then on the functional side, we sat down and we talked about, how does it work today? How do you want it to work tomorrow? Identified those kind of key things that needed to happen. And then also what was shown is we said, hey, we have this spreadsheet and it does this today and we'd like to do it different. And they went into the system and they broke down the process to say, this is the same thing you're doing today, but in a way that is efficient, is streamlined, is everything that you're asking us to be, taking away that spreadsheet accumulation of data. We did real-time updates of enrichment, yay. And so I would say, and instead of building cumulative spreadsheets, getting us into that efficient, effective, and immediate enrichment state was critical. And so above everything else that we've done, that is kind of like the key turnaround point that I feel like we've built together. So.
I can imagine doing everything manually with lots of Excel spreadsheet means potential lots of errors that you have to do. And then when you send that, you can get lots of fees, right, on the wholesale space, lots of challenges that cost money actually to the company, right? So
absolutely,
that kind of helps reducing it. I hope we'll be able to measure that.
Absolutely. So that is a huge KPI to our project. And I said that our wholesale is about 70% of our business. And so at 70%, you can imagine if we're getting a 10% chargeback on that's a significant amount. And so one of the big KPIs for us in this project is making sure that the chargebacks of products that are due to incorrect data, missing data, just just regulatory data not being there. And then trying to keep up with the pace of change that the wholesalers have, it has a challenge in itself. And so even when we think that we have it down and it's solid, we find that it's not. And because of how difficult it has been in the past to keep that data up to date with them and do our seasonal loads versus kind of here's our delta, it leaves us extremely susceptible to returns for bad data, incorrect data, and missing data. And just that alone, I feel like is going to have such a big impact on really our ROI of this project.
Nice. And that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, because I think we talk a lot about digital product passport in Europe, that it's a new regulation. But you talked about an example that is just on, like in the US, there is a state like changing regulations on certain type of equipments. And so suddenly you have to send a new attribute you're not aware about. And with all these Excel spreadsheet stuff must be like really complex, right, to manage. So there is also that in North America that we need to follow, or a tool to help follow regulations.
Absolutely. And so what happens often in this situation with Utah is I have this regulation and I need to inform the customer of some kind of information that is associated with it. And it's great. We get all of the data that we know kind of updated into our descriptions and all that. Awesome. But we haven't done anything, right? So we updated data, but we didn't have the means to kind of push that data out to all of our wholesalers and website and and so in order to do that, it literally, in today's world, pre-Inriver, they have to rebuild every template from scratch because there's no repository of a lot of the data information. And so something as simple as, does this have a battery, is nowhere in the company.
You have to recreate everything.
And so for every product, we have to go, does this have a battery? Does this have a battery? And then to make things worse is if we have 40 vendors that need to know if it has a battery, we have to go each vendor by vendor and say, does it have a battery for this vendor? Well, no, it didn't have a battery for the last vendor, so why would it have for this? And so you can imagine the amount of duplication within those 40 syndications. And in our future world, it will be as simple as saying, okay, select these, syndicate, send, all done. And then I can go back to legal and I can say, hey, I feel like we're in compliance. I feel like we don't run a risk. And I say, I, meaning like the PIM and the team and everybody, we've now reduced our risk as a company. We've increased our profitability, and really we've kept our customer updated, right? Like they want to know what is going on with the product. That's why we have regulations like the Utah regulation, where the consumer has said, if there is something in this product, I need to know. And for us to say, oh, well, we have it updated in our database, isn't that enough? They're like, well, what's that do for me? So for us, it's really getting the right information to the right people at the right time. It is so important for us, and being able to do that in the future and not go through that Utah update of 40 syndications through our beautiful RSA team will be a blessing.
Nice. So that's nice that we didn't just promise something, we actually realized it, and now you're able to see this impact. I was super excited this morning with all the announcement of Inriver, of the new features. What is the one feature that you'd like to see in the near future that probably you're going to ask me, hey, Raf, can we do that?
So first and foremost, I'd like workflows. I am super excited and looking forward to it. And I definitely see the value in it. I think that as we look at setting assignments over things like tasks and queries, that it brings a lot of flexibility to this, not flexibility, but the ability to flex to the system, right? So a workflow is a differentiator to me, especially just coming from a background of workflow heavy platforms. Inriver introducing a robust workflow, not just a workflow, but a robust workflow that has kind of like the suggestions in it, right? So I'm not just telling you, hey, there's a problem here, but I'm saying this is an easy way to fix it. I love that. Awesome. Yeah. Okay.
It's great for adoption, right? Because at some point, I was thinking about it, and we started, building those work areas and kind of do maybe a more complex path for users. And now with what I saw, I'm like exactly the same way, super excited because we don't have to have like paper guides to people. You almost have an assignment column that can tell people what you're missing to be publishing a product. So you have kind of a walkthrough, an assignment list of tasks that you have to go through to publish. So you don't forget anything, and that you actually can publish that on your different channels, right?
Yes, and I loved it because it wasn't, when you're writing the work areas today or the queries, you're kind of fitting it within one relational query. And if it doesn't fit in there, now you have to write a second query. Where with the workflows, it's kind of like, tell me everything within this set of things that doesn't meet whatever criteria you're defining. And it gives the whole picture versus me going into, just imagining from a user standpoint, the ease of use to the user versus whatever previous to a workflow, right? But absolutely, I am so excited for our team to see the workflows. I'm excited to get those workflows going for them. It is a game changer and definitely what I was most excited about so far here at Pinpoint.
Great. If we had to close this little interview on something, what would be the one recommendation you would give to any person looking to implement a PIM? What would be your main takeaway?
It's not the technology. It is the technology, the people, the process. It is the PXM. It's the whole experience. You can build anything, but it doesn't mean people will come, right? So the PXM is kind of what makes the people come to the technology. I would just recommend that as you tackle your technology, to pick a great partner. It does make a difference.
Thank you.
And then, make sure that your partner and yourself are working towards the culture change, the technology change, everything that comes with implementation being done right.
Yeah.
And in order to implement right, you just don't plug something in and go, hey, this is what it is, have fun. There is a ton of, standard operating procedures that need to be reviewed, and sit down with your user, figure out where they are today and figure out where they're going to be tomorrow and tell them the best way to get there. Let them give you feedback to maybe how to get them there better.
So by understanding people and processes, what actually they need to be efficient on working, then you can focus on Inriver as the technology, for example, to accelerate all that, right? Like it's going to bring the boost that they need, but we need that foundational layer. I think that's what
absolutely. Let your people and process design the technology. Don't let the technology design your people and process.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that.